This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Welcome to the Easthampton City Council meeting for Wednesday, April 17th. The meeting tonight is being recorded and broadcast by e-media on Shatter Channel 193 and live streaming on their webpage, easthamptonmedia.org. Councilors and participants in this meeting are gathering in hybrid on the order extended until March 2025, which allow us to do so. I remind both the member of the City Council and the public participating remote remain mute until recognized by the City Council President. Also, for the members of the public, please remove your camera for the duration of this meeting unless you are participating in public speak time or the public hearing. Thank you. This meeting is now called to order. Barbara.
Connie Denham. Here. Salem Derby. Omar Gomez.
Here.
J.P. Kaczynski. Tom Peak.
Here.
Brad Riley.
Here.
Tamara Smith.
Here.
J.T. Terrell.
Here.
Owen Zarek.
Present.
Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will take a motion to approve the minutes of April 3rd.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 3rd. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara.
Connie Denham. Aye. Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Abstain.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
J.T. Terrell.
Aye.
And Owen Zarek.
Aye.
Motion passes. Public speak time. This is the opportunity to address the council regarding any topic not listed on the public hearing. If you are here to communicate anything to the council, please go to the podium. You're going to have 3 minutes to state your name and address for the record. For those ones who are here to talk about the resolution, this is the time to do it because it's not a public hearing. That's going to be at the end of the meeting. So if you want to participate about the resolution, this will be the time to talk to the council. Thank you.
Which resolution is that? Okay. Hi, my name is Kathy Wazinski. I live at 22 Overlook Drive. I am one of the co-founders of Easthampton Active Citizens. We have formed a group because there are many citizens that are concerned that no matter how many times they speak up about something, their concerns are basically ignored. When information is brought up at public hearings, like at the new city hearings or at the about Main Street or any of the other developments, the city just goes along and does whatever they choose to do rather than what citizens are concerned about. We are encouraging citizens to participate, and we hope that you will start to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Couple of raised hands on.
1 second, on the being recognized by the City Council President. I'm going to let people in person talking first, and then the people that are participating remote, I will call your name, okay?
Hi, I'm Carol Broder at 72 Oliver Street. I reiterate what Kathy has brought up, Easthampton Active Citizens, the Facebook page has good communication. But again, we are starting to realize that we need to have a voice and we want to be heard. I find it very confusing on the website. I find it very hard to find the information of when meetings are, where they are. Not all of us can go to the easthampton.gov page, and even if you go to that, it's very difficult to find it and very difficult. I don't want to keep doing PDF files to get alerted, so I think there needs to be a better way. If it just came right on the Easthampton page, that these meetings, whatever the meetings are, the Bs, this, and everyone, that for the public, that would be much better because we don't know. We would have a bigger voice and a bigger turnout and a bigger presence if we knew, and I think that needs to be corrected. And I want to encourage anybody watching online to go on that page as a way of communication, but also each of you have your email addresses public, and you have your phone numbers public, and I want to encourage people in your own districts and your own precincts and things, contact you all, and we expect to get a response. And if we don't get a response, I think we need to follow through with that, writing emails to each of you in our precinct or at large, and calling. We want responses that would show respect to your public that votes you in. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name is Cassie Traggart. I'm the conservation agent here at the city, working with the Conservation Commission, but I'm here today to speak in relation to the resolution proposed to become a B city designation for the city. And the Conservation Commission submitted a letter of support for that measure. But as the conservation agent, I also wanted to put forward my support for it and mention that the climate action plan that we've been in the process of developing, through the public outreach that we've done for that, many people expressed an interest in having more resources related to what becoming a bee city would provide for us. So I wanted to highlight that was not something that the Conservation Commission would have included in their letter, was that support that we saw through the public outreach for the development of the climate action plan. And then the last piece I wanted to add is that the planning department is named as the staff liaison for the Bee City designation, and that I am ready to take on that role as a designee from the planning director when it was still Jeff Bagg. But if you have any other questions, please let me know. But otherwise, I just want to say I support it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Genevieve Goldleaf. I live on Briggs Street in Easthampton, and I'm also commenting in support of the Bee City resolution. I'm an ecological landscape designer with a background in environmental science. I am an Easthampton homeowner who's working on converting my yard to native pollinators, and I'm also a member of the Bees Committee. I'm excited that we have this opportunity to implement so many of the recommendations that emerged through the Pollinator Action Plan and the community process that Cassie just spoke about. I think this is a really wonderful way to deliver on what participants in those meetings brought up. As a committee member, using the structure and the resources that the Bee City program offers has already been really helpful for us to identify our priorities, and I think having the designation on record will help us communicate what we're trying to achieve and how community members can be a part of that effort. In addition to the value of wildlife and pollinator habitat that the resolution outlines so clearly, I also wanted to mention that one of the most effective ways to combat climate grief, the sense of futility that a lot of people understandably feel in the face of the urgency of the climate crisis, is finding ways to get directly involved in positive climate solutions and see the impact of that work. Creating beautiful and inviting and educational pollinator and wildlife habitats, I think, are one of the many positive and joyful actions that we can take. And getting our community motivated, involved, and connected is in itself an incredibly important strategy to address climate change, in addition to the more concrete outcomes of reducing fossil fuel usage, water usage, pesticide usage, and all of the other ecological services that, again, the resolution outlines. Approving the Bee City designation and this resolution is an important step towards implementing practical climate mitigation strategies with concrete and visible results, towards cultivating community connections, and towards building a more resilient and livable future in our town. And I would encourage the council to support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Jean?
Hi, my name is Jean Powell Wilson of 377 Main Street, and I wanted to comment on the Main Street Rotary traffic. I was just driving on Main Street today, going north on Route 10, and as I was at the intersection, I noticed that there was a fire truck coming through the opposite direction going towards the Rotary. When it came to the intersection, it had to veer into, because of the car in front, and it wanted to go to its place very quickly. It moved into the intersection and then back into that lane going towards the Rotary. It just made me think today, this week the traffic has been fairly light because of vacation, but it just made me think about how, what happens if this is a very crowded intersection, a crowded time when all the lanes are full of traffic. Where would that emergency vehicle go? Normally, the bike lane has a little allowance for cars to veer to the side to allow the emergency vehicle to pass. In this case, it just went down the one lane where I was at near that intersection with Big E. But it will get crowded, as Easthampton is very popular. So I'm just wondering about that. Where is that vehicle going to go if it's just one lane and there's no room with a bike lane on the other side because of those dividers? There's no allowance for that little leeway. I just wanted to bring that up as a question regarding that traffic plan to consider given the current configuration with the dividers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please. Anyone else?
That door is locked.
I saw a few hands before. I don't know if the people was waiting online want to participate in public speak time. Anyone? Sean? I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Yes, Sean Abbott. I live at 21 Summer. I am also here in support of the B City USA resolution, although Jenny has already spoken a lot more eloquently than I am going to be able to. But we are, along with the climate crisis, we are currently undergoing the sixth mass extinction, which is the Anthropocene extinction. And a major reason for that is simply that plants and animals don't have enough habitat anymore. We have basically taken over everything. But this is actually, as Jenny was pointing out, something that we can have an immediate, marked, and visible effect on in our own world, in our own places, where if we just resume planting native plants, which is to say plants that like evolved in those spaces around all of those other insects and animals, we can provide that habitat that like really helps mitigate the extinction that's happening right now. And it's in being able to see the effects of your actions is very powerful, as you know, in order to mitigate sort of like climate despair. And it really helps motivate people to take action. So I think it's like a very important thing to do. By joining in on the Jersey Society B City, we gain guidance, we gain community, we gain a lot of other folks that will help us figure out how to do things well and better than we perhaps could do on our own. So I think it's an extremely worthwhile thing to do. It allows us to put up signage, allows us to join this community of people that are taking these actions. So I highly support that we become a B City USA. And just one other comment we've had in the past, a few folks that were concerned that it was, you know, about honeybees, which are actually not a native species, and it is very much generally about pollinators. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Have a minute. Communication from elected officials, boards, and committee. Councilor Denham.
Yeah, just wanted to let folks know that President Gomez and I are going to have offer the Municipal Leadership Academy again. We had it offered, but there was a spike in COVID, so we put that on hold, and so it's going to start May 9th, and we will work with the IT folks, and we will have that application up. We are tomorrow. We are still waiting for confirmation from department heads on the dates that we offered, but we'd like to move forward with this particular schedule so that we can have it running just after and partially during when we have budget meetings, so that folks, its information is fresh in their minds. So that will be up tomorrow, and then we'll move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I wanted to take a moment to congratulate all the students at the Easthampton High School who competed in the annual We the People competition. Like so many years past, they won the state competition and they just arrived home from Washington, D.C., where they finished 10th place in the entire country. Sometimes it feels like we're on the brink of a dynasty with how often they perform at this level. And, though it may seem cliche, it really does take a village. So first I wanted to say thank you to Ms. Brown for teaching the students everything that you could possibly imagine about the history of our government. And then next I want to say thank you to the student mentors who return year after year to help Ms. Brown teach students about what's required to compete at such an elite level. And then I also want to say a very specific thank you to the Bruffs, who, through their philanthropic efforts and leadership in Easthampton, make the finances of national competitions possible year after year. And then lastly, thank you to the students who compete year after year. Your dedication to understanding how governments work and how they've evolved over the last few centuries gives me hope that the next generation will be able to hold seats like we have right now and guide our country through tumultuous times with poise, grace, and brilliance. So well done, and we're so proud of you.
Thank you. Any other counselors? Seeing none, I will take a motion to open public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to open public hearing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Peak?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, so the first thing we have, the only thing we have in front of us from Finance is a request to appropriate $70,000 from capital stabilization to improve the ADA features on the Council on Aging parking lot. So it's an aging parking lot. It has some serious problems, and it's honestly probably a very lucky thing that nobody has been injured or falling over in it. So it's I think it's. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. It's a good thing. We voted 3-0 to improve it. Our director, Terrell, is here if you want to give any more information on it. But yes, we voted 3-0 to approve this appropriation. And it's a matching grant.
You want to add something?
I was wondering if I could actually share screen. Can I do that if I'm not a co-host?
If you're not co-host, no.
Okay.
Can you please state your name and
Yes.
your position in the city,
Okay.
so that way, for the record?
Cynthia Terrell, Council on Aging Director. So the Council on Aging is asking for funds to supplement a grant from the Massachusetts Office of Disability for a municipal improvement project. As many people know, the city's buildings and sites were evaluated, found lacking in various areas of accessibility. When we had the opportunity to apply for a grant, we picked the most doable possible thing in a short amount of time, which, as you've heard Councilor Peak speak to, is a parking lot and signage project. We hoped the grant would cover the whole amount, and whenever you go out to bid, costs go up. There were more things that the contractor and we didn't think of until the engineer could really dig into it, and a site designer. And so we know the project will cost more. And the importance of basically pointing people towards the few accessible features that we have can't be overstated. So many times, first of all, people come into the building asking to buy postage, because it really still says U.S. Post Office across the top. Better signs will help with that, but more importantly, better signs will point to where the elevator is and where the parking for the elevator is, and then where van accessible spots that will be newly laid out will be. So that's the project.
Thank you. Any councilor have any questions? Councilor Denham?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. President, I just wanted to ask again, and I had asked this question the other day, but I just think it's an important question for the community to know that. So oftentimes when we, in our own homes, have construction workers or contractors come in, sometimes costs end up being much higher than we anticipate, et cetera. And there is I know that the bid went out and people bid on a particular timeline, and sometimes those things don't always happen the way that we think they want to, or that we want them to. And so it has to be done by a particular date. And so how are we gonna manage making sure that we have the receipts in order to make sure that we're not losing those funds because we didn't meet the deadline?
Right. The bid timeline that was developed by the procurement department states that all of the receipts must be in by June 14th, and we can submit them to the state by July 9th. The work has to be, completed in a timely way. That's written into the proposal. And then in terms of cost overruns, there's, according to DPW, engineering, and the others involved in planning this out, there's contingency built into this. So it should come in under the 70,000 plus just under 33,000 of the grant. Mm-hmm. And then any funds remaining would go back for city council approval to go back into capital stabilization.
Thank you. Any other councilor? Anyone from the public have any questions or comments about this appropriation?
Can I comment on that one thing? But no one commented.
Can you please do the clock?
Carol Broder, 72 Oliver Street. About Council of the Aging, I recently joined the Council of the Aging thing. And I want to say one thing about that handicap thing, because you can't tell where the elevator is. I was new to going there and new to the parking lot. I didn't even know there was parking behind there, and I was thinking, where the heck am I going to park? I can't walk from Big E's over there. But so the elevator thing, and then where the elevator, it was kind of scary going in there, because it was like, oh my gosh, I'm out here back, nobody's out here. But also trying to get in and out of the handicap parking lot in the back, it's so tight back there. So that's all I wanted to comment, that I agree with the signage thing.
Thank you. Anyone else in person before I go remote? Leslie? You're muted. Still muted. And I don't have the ability to unmute people here, so. Yeah.
You know it's on the bottom.
Oh, is it off now?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. My only question or remark is, how many spaces are we going to lose with the bollards and the, I assume, van spaces? As it is, we impose on Big E all the time. They have allowed us to park in their overflow. I know that a lot of people just normally go and park in Big E's main lot. How many spaces are we going to lose? And is the Department of Public Works going to actually remove the snow that they put in the parking lot and block off 2 to 3 spaces every winter.
Cindy?
Okay, so currently there are 10 very narrow spots in the back. And what we are going to have is 8 spots plus the van access lanes. And then there's a little tiny triangle at either end of that row that will, that can't be a rectangle anymore. So those little triangles will be striped as not parking spaces. So, and then if the whole project is done around the other side, the Big East side where the staff park, that will go down from 3 plus 1 tiny unusable spot to 3 spots plus striping for pedestrians to get in and out of the room for them to get in and out of the building, since that's also a fire exit. And then the van spaces, we have 2 van spaces on the corner of Union and High, and we have 2 van spaces along the guardrail. Those will remain for the vans. So in total, we will lose 2 spots in order to create what is true ADA parking, which is to have a van access lane. That van access lane will also allow people to have a way to back into a spot that no one's allowed to park in, which right now, that's an issue. If all the spots are full, there's no place to turn to back into and get out more easily. And then the bollards are not taking up any parking spaces. The bollards are to protect the building where people have been hitting the building, and also to extend. There's a guardrail, and with bollards at the end of the guardrail, it will be clear that this is not a vehicle access into the Big E parking lot. You can't leave that way. It's definitely not perfect. There's only 1 ADA access spot in front of the Council on Aging on Union Street. It'd be great if there were more, but and then the other thing to note, to be completely transparent. So right now, there are a number of, quote, handicap spots that are signed as such, but they're not done properly. We will end up with 2 handicap spots of the 8 that are done properly. And so there will be fewer handicapped spots. And the reason for that is that once you go down to fewer spots, if almost all of the spots are now handicapped, most of the time, people with no placards won't be able to park in most of the spots. So this was the compromise that was made.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. She already spoke. Leslie, I give you already the opportunity, so sorry.
I was just going to ask for clarification, but that's fine.
Tom, Councilor Peak.
All right. I'll make this request in the form of a motion. Request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. Amount requested $70,000 to be transferred from capital stabilization, $70,000 to be transferred to fiscal year 24 municipal ADA improvement grant. The amount requested will be used for the following purpose: Council on Aging parking lot improvements, paving and striping, site design, site installation, expenses for which exceed the FY25 municipal ADA improvement grant of $32,797.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to the supplemental appropriation of $70,000 from the capital stabilization for Council on Aging parking lot improvement. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Brad Riley?
Aye.
Tamara Smith?
Aye.
JT Terrell?
Aye.
Owen Zaret?
Aye.
Connie Denham?
Aye.
Omar Gomez?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Councilor Peak. Councilor Sarit?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a utility pole request for you utility pole enthusiasts. This is probably not as exciting as the one we discussed in a recent meeting, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. This is a request for a jointly owned pole by Verizon to be moved about 33 feet from its current location. This pole is situated right next to a curb cut at the site of the future Dunkin' Donuts at the end of East Street on the Route 5 side. And for, I believe, a variety of reasons, as well as to provide reliable both power and telecommunications, as well as to provide better line of sight and other issues surrounding the construction there. It's being requested to be moved 33 feet west, which is basically just at the other side of the curb cut, and there's a stake there. The pole currently is where it currently lies, has not yet been installed. We met on this. There are only two members of the property committee present at that time, and we made a recommendation that the city council vote in favor of this 2-0. There is a representative here right now from Verizon. Mr. Fonner is on the line. Mr. President, I'll turn it back to you.
Any councilor have any questions or comments about this poll location? Seeing none. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments about this poll location? Seeing none. Councilor Sarrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the petition filed by Verizon New England Incorporated, NSTAR Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy, to relocate jointly owned mid-span pole number T.150E/E.121 to a point on the north side of East Street, approximately 170 feet westerly from the center line of Wilder Avenue. The new location will also be approximately 33 feet west of the pole's current location. And also that the petitioners agree to reserve space for one crossarm at a suitable point on each of said poles for the fire and police telephone signal wires belonging to the municipality and used by it exclusively for municipal purposes. That's a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the utility pole location request. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Denham. Thank you, Councilor Sarrett. Councilor Denham.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a holdover from, well, not a holdover. The process was started last term into this term, looking at emergency message centers. And we had recently had a joint meeting with the planning board, and they passed this amendment to the zoning ordinance unanimously. But essentially, this is to expand the use of electronic message centers into the downtown business and highway business areas. There was concern about the brightness of the message centers, which standards were to follow the federal highway standards. But after discussion, given the fact that some of these might be in potential neighborhoods with the use at a church, they moved it to, changed it to Mass DOT standards. And then the other important piece of this is that electronic message centers shall not market off-premise goods and services. And so that was something that was important for this particular amendment, although we will be working with organizations, businesses that have these to for opportunities to make public service announcements, and they will be coordinated through the city for those particular messages as needed if in an emergency. But we have Associate Planner Dylan Maxfield here, who he can provide additional information for the community.
Dylan?
Yeah, that was pretty much summed it all up. The only thing I'll add, just the language in there about not allowing for the sale of off-premises merchandise was we didn't want to see electronic signs essentially becoming billboards for rent. Somebody could put it up there, if nothing otherwise says you can't. So the idea is to relate to services that are being provided there, or public messages, but to not allow for these signs to become general billboards, essentially.
Thank you.
Yep, that's it. And so the committee voted 3-0 to approve the same language that the planning board.
Thank you. Any councilor have any questions or comments before going? Councilor Peak?
I just want to say, as a former member of the ordinance committee, I'm glad to see this finally get out. I think this was kind of a glaring an issue that when we first noticed this, there was some issues where we were using these things, but they had been broadly banned. So in order to bring ourselves into compliance with the rule, we quickly allowed municipal use of them, but it never really sat right with me, the idea of the city being allowed to use them, but nobody else. And I knew that there were community organizations that were interested. So I'm grateful to the ordinance committee for resolving this. And it's just one less thing we have to worry about. So great job.
Thank you. Councilor Sarrett?
Yeah, just thank you to the ordinance committee and everyone who worked on this for bringing us into the 21st century. Oftentimes previously with manual signs, you'd have to put letters up in manually, as the name would imply. This makes it much easier for businesses, as well as improves visibility and easy turnover of messaging. So especially as the highway business district has become more and more developed and denser, it's more important that signage is more easily produced and visible. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilor? I just have a clarification question, especially this is for the public. When we're talking about downtown, what that particular street means, that is going to be Main, Union, and Cottage, or that include another street?
We didn't go by streets, but I think there is the opportunity of beyond those three streets, but planner Maxfield might have some more information. I wasn't a part of some of those initial conversations.
Dylan?
Yes, so specifically what it means, originally it allowed only for signs in the mill industrial, but now this will allow the mill industrial, downtown businesses, and the highway business district. So anywhere that's in those zoning districts, we'll be able to have electronic signs.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments about this public hearing?
Sorry, I really didn't plan this. Carol Broder, 72 Oliver Street. I just am very concerned about these electronic and the lights and neon things and defining those. You're talking historic districts, and you're talking, all these things we're doing for pedestrian safety and bikes and stuff. You have all these lights, electronic lights and signs and neon signs, and you're distracting a lot of drivers, and you're taking away from the historic, the history of our buildings and things. And I think it opens a can of worms for the right to have them anywhere else. To say, oh, you mentioned something, well, just the cities, we had just the city was using them. We didn't feel right, the public didn't get to use them. Well, now you're saying a certain area of public can use them. I think you're opening a can of worms for a lot of other areas. And signage and a big distraction of the driving and the safety. That's all.
Thank you. Councilor Dena, you want to answer?
Yeah, so to my knowledge, in regards to historic buildings and areas and things like that, that has to go through the Historic Commission, so to be permitted, et cetera. So that's something that if there's concern about historic buildings and whatnot, then that's something that will have to be also go through the Historic Commission to be able to address some of that.
Councilor Peak?
It's also my recollection, unless something has changed when I was working on this, that these things, they won't be, flashing neon signs with advertisements or whatever. It'll be text. The text can't animate. It'd be like, sort of like the ones that you see for construction saying, the construction ahead or whatever, that it's text, and then the text could change to another block of text, but it's not, going to be like a little dancing cowboy trying to get someone to come into a bar or anything like that. I don't mean to make light of the situation. I'm just saying this because I wouldn't necessarily approve of something like that, but I think if the church, who was the one who brought this forward, I believe was the Congregationalist Church, wants to have a sign out front that just in plain text says what events they're doing that week, that to me is not as much. I do absolutely, I hear your concern about that, but for me, that made me feel better about it, that it's not going to be a lot of flashy animated things. It's just going to allow people to display animated text where they previously would have to put the letters up on the board.
Any other councilor? Councilor Riley?
Yes, just to kind of piggyback on what Councilor Denham and Councilor Peak were saying, when we also started working on this amendment proposal, we took into consideration the measurements of the amount of light that are emitted on these signs. It is an archaic, I think, measurement style, but it is by candlelight per foot, which is literally if you were to hold a candle in front of you, how bright would it be for the candle flame? So these kind of measurements were taken into consideration. And then, we also, questioned how safe will these signs be for people who have, disabilities, whether they have neurodiversity issues where the lights can be triggering, people that have epilepsy, for example. So, we really looked at what these signs would look like, and we actually drove around into communities where these signs exist. So this one may be a little more elaborate, but it would be less than like if you were to go into Northampton where the Academy of Music is, and then they just have that little marquee bar that's just below their sign. So even less quality than that. So I hear what everybody's saying, and these were all of my concerns as well. And I know that the zoning board also had met with us multiple times over the process. So lots of eyes on this to make sure that it doesn't turn into, what I think. Right, exactly. It's right. It will
don't engage with them.
Yep. Sorry. It will not be like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Denham?
Yeah, well, just one last comment. So this hasn't changed from the original ordinance. So in terms of kind of scrolling, nothing scrolls. Whatever's on the screen has to change to the next screen, right? And it's in unison, so nothing rolls. So you're not trying to read it. It's just a change in language or whatever the language is. It's a full screen change of what that next information might be. So it's not a scrolling or I missed it. It's just a solid change.
Anyone else from the public? Anyone from the public participating remote? Seeing none, Councilor Denham.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is in the form of a motion to amend section 10.0, sign subsection 10.04M to allow electronic message centers in the downtown and highway business districts to strike 10.04M13 and 10.04M5 and add a new section 10.04M5 to allow for public service announcements with the discussed amendments to include 10.04M1, 2, to change brightness standards to MassDOT instead of federal highway standards, and change 10.04M4 to disallow advertising of unrelated goods on EMC, Electronic Message Center, signs.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the zoning ordinance amendment Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez. Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Sarat?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to, with your permission, I'm going to go a little bit out of order in the way it's listed here. Okay. So we have a couple requests for amendments to Appendix A, traffic rules and orders. I'm going to start with a request that was brought forward to both increase handicap parking fines as well as general no parking fines. I'm going to start with the handicap parking fine in isolation. Essentially, currently, the handicap parking fine in the city is $50. This was seen to be low by both public safety, law enforcement, and the three councilors who brought this forward. It's not considered an adequate deterrent, and as we continue to have ongoing conversations about accessibility and specifically accessibility to handicap parking spaces, we need to make the fines have a little bit of teeth in order to deter people from inappropriately using those spaces. And so the committee met and discussed this and recommended 3-0 to change the handicap parking fine to $250.
Any councilor have any questions or comments about this particular one that is about the handicap one? Councilor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, so, I just want to say in terms of raising the fine for doing this, and to a greater extent, the other fines as well, this has never been about collecting revenue. Honestly, the city does not care about collecting revenue from parking violations. This is at the root a human rights issue. There are people who need access to these parking spaces, and in the past we have tried, public engagement, making messages in city council announcements to ask people to be more mindful of not using these spaces. And there are just people, and I don't know if they're residents or if they're visitors or whatever the case may be, but we need people in Easthampton who need access to these parking spaces to be able to use them. And the people who violate this are violating someone's civil and human rights. So this is really just to say, please be better. But if you're not going to be, then there will be financial consequences for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Riley. Any other councilor? Anyone from the public want to participate in this public hearing? That's why we're here.
I'm sorry,
You don't have to say sorry. That's the reason we are here.
Carol Broder, 72 Oliver Street. On that issue, what's the enforcement, though? That drives me absolutely crazy. Is okay, but they have the handicap placard. For one thing, they're not supposed to be driving, keeping that handicap. That drives me crazy in their rearview mirror. That's against the regulations of having it. I have a handicap sticker. You're not supposed to have it. You can put it up there when you park, but not to leave it hanging. So people are abusing that. They're using their family members or their friend's car to get that sticker. That's the abuse there. But if the police aren't enforcing it, who's enforcing it? No one's enforcing it. They're not saying, can I look at your handicap sticker? Because it's supposed to be identifiable if it's asked with your license that you're the driver or you're the person in the vehicle. So enforcement of that. My other issue, the other woman brought up to Ms. Terrell, I'm sorry, I don't know anything, about the handicap parking and the snow removal, or someone did. You stopped using the Easthampton, used to be Rite Aid, it's Walgreens. The handicap there, the snow removal, they'd push the snow on the handicap spot, the one spot there is. That enforcement of moving that snow. You couldn't get out of if you did park in it, they left it, but you couldn't get out of your car. People that are more handicapped, their abilities than I, can't get out with a walker, so forth. So the enforcement of it, you can put all the fines you want. It's the enforcement of it.
So let's start with this first issue is about the parking lot in Walgreens, that's private. So, and that one, I guess we have to have a conversation with the police department and the owners there. About the other ones, what we're looking for is the people who park illegally in those spaces without the tag. That's what we're addressing. And I guess it's the police department who have to enforce it, right? Councilor Riley?
Just something that I would like to tell the council that I'm committed to do is I can also reach out to the leadership of the Commission on Disability because I think fines aren't going to be enough. There always needs to continue to be conversations about issues like this. So, I know that, the leadership on the Commission on Disability are committed to having these conversations, and I'd be more than happy to follow up with them to see what we can do to improve that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Denham?
I just want to comment. I think you're right. Enforcement is difficult, right? And I think that one of our biggest challenges, and not to target people who have disabilities, but we also don't want to, you need to prove to me that you have a disability, right? And I think that then can be targeting of that individual. And sometimes people have disabilities that we don't know, we can't see. And so I think it's a slippery slope, right? Because we don't want to target people, and people have the right to be treated humanely and not to prove that they have disabilities, right? And so I hear the enforcement piece, and also as a person in this world, I don't want to be a part of targeting anyone or making people prove to me that they're deserving of that particular thing. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Any other councilors? Anyone else from the public? Anyone remote? Seeing none. Councilor Saret. Yes, I have so many here. Do you want to make a motion for that one first, and then we move in?
Yes, if it's okay, I'd like to do these piecemeal.
Yeah, let's do that one first.
And this is actually a combined, so I'll make the motion. If you have any concerns, you can tell me. Move to amend traffic rules and order, Appendix A, Section 1-33, subsection D, to read $250 in lieu of the current $50 fine, and to correspondingly change Section 1-77 penalties code 16 also to $250.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to amend the city ordinance Appendix A, traffic rules and order, to increase the handicap parking fines to $250. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Saret.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the next item is additionally, it was deemed, all of our non-handicap parking fines are currently $20. It was, again, considered that this was not enough of a deterrent to keep people from actually parking illegally. Obviously, as previously noted, these do need to be enforced to actually do anything. But it was brought forward to recommend that these all be raised to $50. For the most part, as we discussed in committee, if you are getting a ticket for illegal parking in Easthampton, it's because you're parking somewhere you shouldn't be parking to begin with a few exceptions that I'll go into once we open up discussion. And so the committee recommended 3-0 that we raise the fines from $20, obviously with the exception of handicap parking, to $50. There was some conversations that have emerged about a few items and a few violations that actually involve parking somewhere legally, but parking somewhere legally in a way that then violates the intention of that parking, such as parking in 1 hour space. I will go into that once we start discussion, but to properly represent what the committee discussed, we did recommend 3-0 to raise all those fines to $50.
Thank you. Any councilors have any questions or comments? No?
I do.
No, wait, I do.
Councilor Smith, I will recognize you, but can you please use the digital hand? That way I can see you. I mean, now I know that you want to say something, but that way I can see you. It will be easier for me. Yeah, thank you. But before you, let me say something. As one of the co-sponsor of this particular issue, we never look through increase the people who legally park. That was not the intent. The intent is for the people that illegally park in zones that are not supposed to be parking. That's when we had the conversation with the police chief and the other councilor who was a sponsor of this, that was the main idea. That were never to try to do that. I think the people who park legally, of course, if they spend the whole day there, they should have a fine too, but not as big as $50. Councilor Smith?
My biggest concern about raising the price from $20 to $50 if you're parking wrong is we just were hearing about that there's a problem with parking at the senior center in the middle of the city. My concern is that I don't know why people are parking illegally. It'd be one thing to say they're running into a shop and instead of finding parking, they're doing this. But before I know whether or not that is really the majority, I have trouble. That's a big jump. And this is the kind of thing where my teenage kids would be likely to park in the wrong place and not know. And 20 compared to 50 on this one, I just find 50 to be too steep. I understand it when it's, when it's an accessible handicap spot and we want to make sure that that stays open. But I'm really concerned about this one. I think it's too big of too steep of a jump.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. I not necessarily disagree with you. I think the biggest issue here is safety. And $50 is not enough of losing a person. We can have a really bad accident because someone is blocking crosswalks or parking in a corner. Then the people who are driving would not be allowed to see pedestrians walking. I think that's a big issue. That's the main reason that we're doing it is because the safety of the people. But I hear you. When we bring the $50 was a starting point, not necessarily. Councilor Gomez is attached to the $50. Definitely, I think we should increase it because I think 20 is a little too low when some people are probably spending a lot of money in some businesses in town. But I hear you. I think there's a legit concern. Councilor Smith?
I hear what you're saying. I just think going more than double in one fell swoop is a lot. And at the same time, since we've had a lot of changing in the parking recently, just with some of the new designs, I noticed as someone who's driving in the city, a lot more parking signs than I saw previous. And I would rather go a little more slow with this. I feel like we're putting a lot of rollouts with new parking patterns at the intentional slowing down of traffic. And again, that's just my opinion. I think we see a lot of things that we're currently trying to change. While I'm okay with an increase in the price, I think going from 20 to 50 in one move is really a lot. And I just think it's too much.
Okay. Councilor Riley?
So, I originally voted at the committee level to recommend increasing the fines from 20 to 50, but I also recognize what Councilor Smith is saying, and I would be open to amending this recommendation or our motion to maybe go to $35 if people are okay with that, or I would be open to having a conversation about what we think would be more appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Riley. Councilor Smith, do you have an amendment for this when we have a motion or no yet? Do you have?
Not yet.
Okay. I just want to, before we take the motion, I just want to be sure the Councilor Peak and then Councilor Sarret.
I apologize. I probably could know this information if I had participated in these meetings, but if somebody would When was the $20 parking fine set?
It looks like
1972.
Yes, I was.
1972.
So I have the inflation calculator from the Bureau of Labor Statistics up.
Which he always does.
In $20 in 1972 had the buying power of $152 today. So when that was set, that was what we were talking about in terms of the power of, like, the weight of that fee was a $150 ticket. Now, were people back then too heavy-handed? I don't know, maybe. I'm not necessarily saying that, but I am saying that this is, when time passes, wages go up, buying power goes up. If fees don't keep up with that, then they eventually become somewhat trivial. Now, if folks wanted to settle on a different one, I don't have a really strong opinion about this, but I just think that that's relevant information to know. This, even a $50 fine would be 1/3 of the inflation-adjusted fine that was initially levied in the 70s. Not saying those people were right about everything, but that's where it stood. That's what it meant when it was initially implemented.
Thank you. Councilor Sarrett?
So first of all, I hear the councilor's concerns, but I want to just bring attention to what the penalties are, and also this might be a good time to bring into the conversation some of the thoughts that have evolved following our committee meeting about maybe creating a kind of different levels of fines. So the types of things that you currently are considered parking illegally are parking in an intersection or on a sidewalk, and on a crosswalk. There are also some parking violations for what's overtime or metered violations. So essentially parking on 1 hour parking and going over. Those are the ones that I had indicated earlier in some other conversations. I think we should consider either not raising substantially, blocking a road. So while I had the same thoughts as the counselor from Precinct 5 who spoke in terms of, parking's at a premium. We're having a lot of conversations right now about parking, and we have to really be thinking about making sure it's being made available, even if it's being redistributed as we talk about new projects and such. But as we discussed in committee, most of these main violations are absolutely parking somewhere you shouldn't be parking at all. And so my recommendation would probably be in those cases that, and to the counselor from Precinct 3 point, it's actually a bargain to be $50 for like parking on a sidewalk. But for instance, I think if you were codes 12, 13, and 8, which are a meter violation over time and between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. So basically parking somewhere you should park, but going over, I would say we should only raise those to maybe $25. So those are recommendations, but I just wanted to kind of fill in the conversation and kind of contextualize what we're actually writing tickets for in the city.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other Councilor? Councilor Denham?
Thanks, Mr. President. I think here's my struggle. I don't know what the right amount is, but what I do know is that people want to feel safe. And I think that we've had people come in here numerous times talking about various intersections that they feel unsafe. I know there's streets downtown where I've had to nudge out slowly to try to be able to see around the cars that are parked there illegally. If somebody hits me, that's going to cost a whole lot more than $50. And if people don't care about $20, then what is the amount that they're going to care about? Because people are fearful of crossing the street in our downtown areas. And I think that we have to do something. And if it's $20 and we're only going up a short bit, are they going to care about that? Or maybe they are going to take notice if it is a little bit more of a jump. And I don't know what that answer is, but we have to do something that's going to jar people into understanding that what they're doing is not okay and people in our community are feeling unsafe.
Thank you, Councilor Denham. Any other councilors? Anyone for the public? You already say something, sorry.
Can I think $50 is good.
Let anyone from here? Yeah.
Kathy Wazinski, 22 Overlook Drive. I would actually agree, $50 is a good amount. We have seen difficulties with parking, and pulling out, as Councilor Denham has said, is challenging. The other challenge, though, is people double parking or parking behind other people, particularly on Main Street. And I think with what we've done on Main Street now, we've just made that a higher likelihood of people parking illegally over there with so few spaces. So I think the $50 fine is great. I think we need to pay attention to the safety issues. I think we've made Main Street less safe. And I think we need to really pay attention to that issue. As we're talking about increasing safety and increasing fines, I would also like to see fines increased for pedestrians that are walking unsafely and crossing unsafely, and cyclists who pay no attention to traffic rules and are causing very unsafe situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Smith, I'm gonna let Leslie to talk first and then you, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Leslie?
Thank you. Leslie Shar, 22 Nashawanic Street. It's a question. Instead of just having a fine, which one of the counselors has said would be, really hard for her child to pay, let's go from 25 for your first offense to 50 to your second offense to 30, to 75 for your third offense. The people who are writing our citations, I assume, are police officers who have access to a computer so they can look up if that person has received a parking citation in Easthampton prior, and just make the fine increase each time that they park illegally. That's all.
Thank you, Leslie. Councilor Smith?
I guess I hear what everyone is saying. I'm concerned about the price point. And I'm also interested to see whether or not we see any difference in the data of traffic incidences as a result of the different traffic designs that are coming out right now as part of the project. And I know in the room there's mixed feelings about that project and whether or not it's safe, but I just feel like we have a lot of different things going on when it comes to traffic right now. I'm more in favor of pointing out where additional parking is and having it as more of a pedestrian-friendly city those ways. Like I said, I'm not convinced my kids are gonna all start parking wrong, and I'm not so convinced that this is gonna hit my kids, but I am convinced, I am concerned that the people who are more likely to park in the wrong areas are people who are not necessarily familiar with Easthampton, who may not live in Easthampton and are coming into town for entertainment, and on top of already having a hard time finding parking, to feel like they're being victimized if they park in the wrong place and say, I'm never coming back to Easthampton again because that was too big of a fine. Whether or not it's too big of a fine compared to 1970s, I certainly understand the role of inflation and everything. And compared to then, I understand what you're saying, that this is a good deal. However, it's a big jump all at once. And while we also have all of these parking things going on in this town, to me, I just think that's a lot to focus on when it comes to parking all at once. That's just my thought. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. Madam Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to speak on the issue. I absolutely hear the concerns and feedback. The point that Councilor Smith Smith just made on data is also a body of information I'm looking forward to see. I had grave concerns about doing the tactical urban exercise on Main Street when we're paving Union Street. FOIA those emails and you will see exactly what I said. It's very pointed. Mass DOT really set the pace for Union Street, and I wish we could have separated that because I do think we're going to get some clouded data. I just feel like I really need to speak up on the parking tickets. I'm in full support of increasing them. I think it's a safety issue. Concerns about people getting a parking ticket and not coming back, I disagree with. People right now are parking illegally. Police are walking up to them in all parts of the city and saying, you're going to get a parking ticket. And the people say back to them, how much? And they say $20. And they said, worth paying the $20. I am also worried about everything happening at once. I don't know where the committee is as far as, or the request was of when these parking tickets go in, like when it takes effect. I would ask that the City Council and ordinance think about it going into effect towards the new fiscal year in July, because I think we're going to see more typical seasonal traffic. We might have less congestion on Union Street. We're supposed to have a binder and more of parking spaces by Memorial. The other is, and I do, Councilor Smith's comments about how her kids might park, I just feel that pain. I actually think about what my brother and mother will do with parking, and them, getting parking tickets, that's gonna happen. That said, we don't charge for parking here. It's one of the things that people love about Easthampton. It is probably one of the biggest comments that City Hall gets, that the tax collector gets, the police, the fire. As a result, though, the enforcement of what we do have is super important because people confuse, oh, it's free parking, to I'm gonna park my car 2 feet from the Williston Union Street intersection and it's gonna be okay. So I have no intention and would strongly resist any attempt to have parking meters, parking whatever. I think that it's a revenue stream, but I think it's one that we should avoid because it's a part of our culture not to have it. The tickets on the other side, I think that we can do some corrective action around that. 2 more things. One, to graduate the tickets, like to go up to a ticket amount, it's reasonable in words. Our parking ticket system is literally the police put a ticket on a car, the person mails it in, and we and if there's an appeal, they work with the police, sometimes with the tax collector. But to know that somebody does or does not have a ticket, a second, first, or third ticket is not data that the police would carry. And if they're in the process of an appeal, rightfully so, they're saying, well, actually, I'm appealing my ticket, and now we're doing refunds, which currently is an administrative burden, a great administrative burden. So I would ask that consideration here as well. Lastly, for folks, there is an appeals process. And we are writing more and more parking tickets, and folks have asked a couple of times, like, I parked here, I've always parked here, what's going on? And that is well heard in City Hall, and we're working with folks as that does happen, and we will continue to do so. And certainly, if this is passed at those rates, work with members of my family and the concerns that Councilor Smith has. And I know that's a burden on the public, but I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else from the public before I take the motion? Seeing none, Councilor Sarek.
Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to get a sense from the council in terms of your statement earlier and kind of some of the things that have come to light following our last meeting regarding lower fines, let's say $25 for spaces that are legal but parked in such a way that make them illegal. In other words, exceeding an hour, no parking. I think that's a different level of egregiousness. And so how I make the motion would probably affect that. So, or I could make a motion and recommend an amendment. It's up to, I would defer to.
Yeah, I prefer if you make the motion for the illegal parking first. We discuss it. And I think we should make another motion just for that particular issue, the people who legally park, and
Okay.
then we.
Okay, perfect.
Before that, I saw your hand, Councilor Peak.
Oh, yes. I was just going to say that I think if we're going to
say
get too deep into the weeds on that stuff, it might be a good idea to bounce it back to committee. Just when I've seen these things, when we get really technical in the amendment process is often when things get kind of silly. So that's just, I'm good with this. I'm happy to vote for it. But if we start getting into some amendments that seem to stray too far from the original language, that would just be my recommendation, is that we go back and, workshop it a little bit in committee.
Yep, that's why we're going to take two different motions in case the second one will be harder, so we send it back to the
Makes
committee.
sense. And I have two prepared.
Yep.
Okay.
Councilor Denham.
Sorry, do we have data on tickets that are over an hour versus tickets that are parked in the wrong location? I mean, do we have that information? Because I'm going to admit it, I've stayed in a parking spot more than an hour and never worried about that. We don't have people who are marking tires, monitoring that, or anything like that. And so do we even know if that's, I know there's a sign, but is it a thing?
Okay, the quick answer is yes, there's some data out there. If the question is how much the police enforce this, I will say I don't know that answer because we don't have a particular officer that can take a look of that constantly. So we need to keep the city safe as a whole. And some officers, instead of just looking at that, they look other stuff. That's why you never get a ticket, but I know for sure that some people get tickets before. So I know it's happening. I don't know how often it's happening, but it happens. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to make two motions. Okay, so the first is move to amend traffic rules and order, section 1-77, establish penalties to change codes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15 to $50.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to amend the city ordinance appendix A, traffic rules and order, section 1-77. Any further discussion? Barbara?
Owen Zarrett,
Yes.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Nay.
Is that a no?
Nay. Nay. No, I don't know the.
Yeah, we got it.
And JT Terrell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'd like to make a second motion to move to amend traffic rules and orders, section 1-77, establish penalties to change codes 8, 12, and 13 to $25.
Second.
Can we add?
I'll make a third motion for all of them.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for
I have a
reminding
motion and
me.
a second to amend the city ordinance appendix 8, traffic rules and order, section 1-77. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zarrett.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Sarek.
One more motion, thank you for reminding me. I'd like to move that the current changes to Section 1-77 established penalties go into effect July 1st, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to amend the city ordinance Appendix 8 traffic rules and order to start on July 1st, 2024. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't hear the motion on the table. Can I have that repeated?
Yeah, the motion is to start the new fines at July 1st, 2024.
Okay. Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Sarek?
So as part of this conversation also, there were also recommendations or requests brought forward to remove or modify some no parking signs that are particularly around the Main Street, Union Street area. We discussed this in committee. It became apparent that the way that these are written in the traffic rules and order and the way that they actually manifest physically are two slightly different stories. For instance, there are a series of parking spaces on Main Street as you're approaching where it veers off into Park Street, right in front of one of the churches there. It's actually a fair amount of spaces. I think it's 4 or 5. But that parking is only available on Sundays. And one of the original recommendations was to make that a no parking at all times. And we realized that that would be a large loss of potential parking volume. As a contrasting example, another one of the spaces is on Union Street, right when you turn from Main to Union, that is only available on Sundays, but because of the location of where cars would end up parking, it becomes a significant safety issue. There's another sign that appears that might not even be in the traffic rules and order, and then there's another one again, which the way it's worded, we need to reevaluate it. So what did happen in committee was we did make 2 recommendations in the interest of transparency. One was the no parking sign on Union Street, the westerly side, from the intersections of Union and Main for a distance of 214 feet in a southerly direction is currently no parking at any time with the exception of Sundays from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. We recommended making that no parking at all times. Subsequently, the one that I had mentioned as my first example on Main Street, southerly side from the intersection of Main and Union in a westerly direction to the intersection of Main Street and Clark Avenue, no parking at any time with the exception of Sundays from 8 to 1. We recommended actually making those, removing the no parking restriction altogether because that's a fair amount of spaces for the city. Those are the 2 recommendations we actually made, 3-0, with no recommendation for the additional ones. And my recommendation outside of discussion here is to allow the committee to synthesize this a little bit more, have another meeting about it, which would include a site visit and bring forward some more distinct and clear recommendations to the committee. So that's my report. Yep. I just have to plug my computer in.
Thank you. Any councilor have any questions or comments? No? Anyone from the public? I'll make a comment. Anyone participating remote? Seeing none, Councilor Sarek.
So at this time, what I'd recommend is continuing this hearing to June 1st. We will be meeting on May 14th for public safety. And we will have a regular meeting in our, within 50 Payson, but also as part of that meeting, we'll have a site visit.
June 5th.
June 5th, sorry, the first June meeting. We'll be able to bring, I will report this out May 15th. And we should be able to have a best informed and clear plan at that point, if that's okay with the council.
Yes, we have to make a motion to continue in the public hearing for those items.
I'll make a motion at this time to continue the public hearing to June 5th. June 5th.
I say 15 this chamber.
6:15 these chambers.
We have a motion and a second to continue in the public hearing on these items for June 5th at 6:15 in these chambers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye, motion passes. That's concluded.
Thus concludes and move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close public hearing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. Mayor's communication?
Good evening, President Gomez and members of the City Council. I am at the podium tonight to read into record my budget, my fiscal year 2025 budget message. And at the conclusion of that, the link with the full budget will be emailed to all of you, the department heads, school committee, boards and chairs, as well as being available to the public on our website. If you subscribe to the Notify Me text service, you will get a text with a link on your phone and you can just click it and the whole budget book is in front of you. Tomorrow at some point, there will be a hard copy of this budget at the public library, the Council on Aging, and in the city clerk's office for review. That said, as federal COVID recovery funds award started, I pursued an aggressive funding of our stabilization accounts, preparing for the year when federal dollars would end, creating a gap between expenses and revenue. Fiscal year 2025 is that year. With combining financial forecasting and intentional saving, the city has a prepared solution to this budget gap. I'm grateful to our department leaders for consistently practicing sound fiscal policy and strategies in the preceding years. They carried out my fiscal approach and as a result, freed up money to fund stabilization accounts to historic levels. These actions now present the city with funding solutions. The financial departments diligently tracked local revenue while responsibly expanding services to meet community needs. I established a weekly meeting to review financial benchmarks, capital expenditure, and appropriations. Fire, police, parks, planning, and DPW operated within strict capital budgets while actively pursuing grants, and I might add, successfully. The building inspection services, assessor, and tax collection departments focused on capturing growth, allowing us to forecast revenue ebbs and flows. The city clerk and elections ensured smooth conduct of municipal elections that were many in the past year. Our Council on Aging increased programming and support services. Parks and Recreation provided high recreational values at resident-friendly cost while rebuilding our beloved Nonotuck Park pool. And yes, we have lifeguards. All departments have a plan or met the goal of funding all grant-funded positions within the operating budget. My proposed expense budget keeps our commitments to our residents and employees. This budget funds clean energy, climate resiliency, public infrastructure, community-based support services, and engagement initiatives. Our remaining Canvas stabilization funds will offset ARPA funds in the health department. These funds will continue the robust outreach and engagement programming with our veterans, youth, elders, and residents of historically underrepresented communities, and local government. Collaborating with the school department leadership, I propose to fund the education department at the level voted by the school committee back in March. Using a real-world perspective, the number of qualified and interested job seekers for city jobs is shrinking, making recruitment and retention crucial. My budget recognizes this reality by funding personnel expenses per established pay schedules and collective bargaining agreements without any staff reductions. I have long prioritized worker protection, and I am glad to have voluntarily recognized 3 new collective bargaining units in the last year. The city's insurance employee benefits increased more than we expected, but we did not change the premium split. We all have also increased robust financial and wellness employee programs. To further demonstrate our commitment to our city public servants, I am proud to say that Easthampton is one of 7 municipalities to enact a parental leave policy. Per home rule charter, the mayor must present a balanced budget by finding revenue to cover expenses to meet that exact mandate. For the fiscal year 2025 budget, the city will need to use other funding sources to support the budget or make some really tough choices. Working off the auditor's recommendation, my expense budget looks to apply general stabilization, tax rate stabilization, and cannabis stabilization accounts with the respective amounts of $1.8 million, $600,000, and $57,000. Local receipts will be calculated on the basis of the actual number of permits, applications, or licenses issued with new rates for fiscal year 2025. My fiscal year 2025 budget assumptions are as followed. 1, requesting a $600,000 appropriation from certified free cash to the Tax Relief Stabilization Fund to lower all taxpayers' burdens in the face of rising property values. Expectation of higher fiscal year 25 local receipts given planned post-COVID increases in parking tickets, inspections, and permit fees. Increased water sewer rates to cover the enterprise expense and avoid that expense coming on to our overall tax rate. Creating an enterprise stabilization fund to set aside retained earnings once they are certified for state and federal mandates that are mostly unfunded. Continued use of appropriations as a control on uncertain department expenditures, such as overtime, retirement payouts, expenses that grants may not cover, or grant overages, legal costs outside of typical city business. Restructuring our clean energy profile to hedge against utility increases by negotiating collective energy contracts, leverage our solar credits, increase EV and hybrid vehicles, as well as pursuing solar array expansion. The 8% in healthcare premiums will, while maintaining an employer-employee split of 75-25. 5% increase in dental insurance premiums while maintaining an employer-employee split of 50-50. Following the Easthampton Retirement Board voted funding level recommendation, so we continue to move forward on fully funding our pension obligations. Completing financial and software system transitions for increased efficiency and accountability. Restructuring capital expenditures by setting aside funds for major infrastructure, local matches, capital items, and projects. In keeping with my promise of delivering a budget reflective of Easthampton's values, my intent to bond to close out the Mountain View School is on hold, given favorable interest rates on short-term notes. Short-term note rates have proven more reliable than long-term borrowing over the last year. As such, we will continue to monitor the municipal bond market to negotiate competitive bond terms in the next 2 years. I must point out that the city's fiscal pliability comes only with historical city council support for robust allocations to reserve accounts and a thorough review and welcoming of requested appropriations outside of the past expense budget. The council realizes economic uncertainties, and these votes show. Items like federal funding reductions, inflationary gaps, sudden grant opportunities with local matches, unforeseeable overtime, and retirements. With this realization, I am happy and grateful to have your partnership to hedge against these financial dips well in advance. Current economic and social political factors weigh heavily on our residents' quality of life. We have seen that in increased rates of public participation at these very meetings. Fiscal year 2025 is not the year to pull back services we committed to for our residents during post-COVID recovery. In the face of continuing, and some may say increasing, uncertainty, my proposed budget keeps promises to support our city and all residents. We've prepared for this gap. We saw it coming, while laying out fiscal strategies to avoid future gaps with savings, efficiencies, and prudent spending. Easthampton deserves a government that does not abandon them when anticipated gaps arise where their remedy has been 3 years in the making. I look forward to robust public review and conversation of my fiscal year 2025 proposed revenue budget, and respectfully hand the budget over to the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. By soon, I should get that budget in my email. So
Yeah.
that way I can.
Avoiding or excuse my informal comment, but I believe Lindsay is on the meeting. And so Lindsay, please hit send. And you will have it.
Thank you, because that way we can move it to a committee if we have it.
Yes.
Yes,
Sure.
I'm guessing, and I hope the Lindsay is just click send, that I have it in my files, and I will take a motion to move the fiscal year 2025 budget to the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to move the budget of 2025 to the Finance Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Dunn.
Aye.
Motion passes. I guess that was all from the mayor. Correspondent announcement for the president and the vice president. I want to start saying to the public, the Memorial Day Parade is happening again. So it's going to be Monday, May 27. The route is going to be a little different. They're not going to use Union Street. I don't know why. So they're going to use Cottage, Payson, and then go into Main Street. That will be start at 10:30 a.m. So bring your kids and your family to watch the parade. I think it's going to be fun after not having the parade for a few years. Main Street is a survey. The webpage, if you like it or you don't like it, or you have a half, you can go to the webpage. It's a survey there. Please go there, make a comment. That's the way the DPW will know if you have any concerns or issues about Main Street and the potential changes in the future. I just want to say that this is just temporary. This is just a test. But yeah, you have the opportunity to go to the webpage and do a survey. Public meetings. Again, if you go to the Easthampton Easthampton.gov, you scroll down, all the meetings are going to be there. You scroll down, there's a bunch of information there. You can look for dates, and you can find all the meetings supposed to be posted and should be posted 48 hours before the meeting. If the meeting is not posted before 48 hours, they're not supposed to have the meeting. And that's my report. Report from standing committees. Finance, Councilor Peak.
Thank you, Mr. President. We met last week. We discussed the $70,000 for the Council on Aging. We are not going to be meeting at our regular time this coming Wednesday. We're going to give ourselves a small break before our budget hearings, which I will lay out when they are, what we're going to discuss right now. So the first budget hearing is going to be on Monday, April 29th at 5 p.m. At that meeting, we will discuss revenue, general government, and CPA. Second meeting will be Tuesday, April 30th at 6 p.m. That will be public safety, human services, and unclassified, which is mostly insurance and whatnot. After that, the next week, Monday, May 6th at 5:30 p.m., we'll be discussing public works, enterprise, cultural, and recreation. The next day, Tuesday, May 7th at 6 p.m., we'll be discussing education, debt, and interest. And finally, Monday, May 13th at 5:30 p.m., we will be taking our final votes as a committee and sending it back to the council for a full vote. It's going to be a busy next few weeks for finance, but that's where we stand. If anybody has any questions or anything that you think I should be asking, by all means reach out, or by all means come and participate. This is an important process, and it is frequently a poorly attended one. So just throwing that out there. Everything else on our agenda, the quarterly report from our auditor, and we're probably going to get back to that after budget season, and the review of salaries from elected officials and appointed committees. We did get the Collins Center study back. We considered meeting to discuss that next week, but just given the sheer amount of meetings we're going to have over the next few weeks, we decided that we will resume discussing that after budget season has concluded. I think that's it, so that concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Peak. Public Safety, Councilor Sarrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. We just met last week. That was the 9th at 6 p.m. I presented, as you noted earlier, some of the items that we had on our agenda, particularly the changes to amounts charged for parking violations, and we will continue to review Section 1-25, parking prohibited on certain streets during certain hours. Actually, at this time, lest I forget, I'd like to request a 60-day extension. I'd like to make a motion for a 60-day extension on that item, since it looks like we will have some sort of resolution on that by June. That's a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to extend this item for 60 days. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Tom Peak?
Aye.
Brad Riley?
Aye.
Tamara Smith?
Aye.
JT Terrell?
Aye.
Owen Zarrett?
Aye.
Connie Denham?
Aye.
Omar Gomez?
Aye, motion passes. Councilor Sarrett?
We did not have a quarterly report from a department at our last meeting. We did get to the Ordinance Review Committee final report. That's already been reviewed by that prior committee, as well as the prior Public Safety Committee as well. We discussed a number of items on that report. Briefly, there is an ongoing discussion about how exactly to responsibly and safely enforce, which I don't even think is, I think educate might be a better term, wearing helmets for individuals under 18. We're continuing to review that. We did agree with the prior committee's recommendations of removing 2 items at section 6-8, loitering by certain minors during certain hours, and section 6-9, discharge of dangerous weapons. Those are either covered by current state law or outdated. We agreed 3-0 as a committee to strike those altogether. And so at this time, I'd like to set a public hearing for, do you have a preference, Mr. President? Just the next meeting, okay then?
Yeah.
So May 1st at 6:15 in these chambers to have a hearing on striking sections 6-8 and 6-9 in the current ordinances. That's in the form of a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to schedule a public hearing May 1st, 6:15 in these chambers about the Ordinance Review Committee final report. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Fred Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez. Tom Peak.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We also reviewed some language that is somewhat complicated, but also in its complication has some problematic structure to it that may have some use for law enforcement, but we agreed, and the prior committee had agreed, and the Ordinance Review Committee had agreed that it needed to be potentially rewritten and with consultation by the relevant stakeholders and the city attorney. Those are sections 8-4 and 8-5, which have to do with obstructing the sidewalk or other public ways. There's definitely First Amendment issues there. We want to make sure we get it right. So we'll continue to discuss those. As I noted earlier, we will be meeting on May 14th, the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. Will we have conference room 1?
I don't know.
In a place yet to be determined. And also on that date, we will have a site visit to the various parking spaces on Main and Union Street. So dress appropriately, those who wish to attend. And let me just make sure I asked for that extension. Thus concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Zaret. Appointments, Councilor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. President. The appointment committee last met yesterday, April 16th at 6 p.m. So just a point of clarification, we did have a mayoral appointment, but that person is actively vacationing in France and asked if there was a possibility for a future date. And we do have the ability to extend that out to May 18th. So we will be meeting with that mayoral appointee at our next meeting. So in the meeting that we had, we basically discussed the current status of the appointment process. So I know, God, I think it was September of last year when I introduced that as a measure. So I just wanted to put a big thank you out to the clerk's office, to the mayor's office, that I've been working with over the last few months. We're actually in the process now of building out a handbook for the appointment process. Once that is complete, it will be given to whomever is the chair of appointments, to city council president, to city council vice president, to the clerk's office and the mayor's office as well. This is just to ensure that everybody is operating off of the same set of information, and that if the public is interested, then we could also send a PDF link out to the public as well. So that work is continuing. And then I think, so we will be meeting on May 1st at 5 p.m. for our next meeting. I know that's a little unusual. Additionally, this is new business that we will get to later on, but we will be reappointing the auditor and the assistant auditor will be up for reappointment.
That's correct.
And so instead of doing this typical process, what I'd like to do instead, and I've reached out to the auditor's office and they agreed to do this, is instead of engaging in a typical Q&A process to see if they're eligible for reappointment, is to do a 15-minute presentation on the work that the auditor's office has done over the last 3 years. So I would invite any of you to attend if you'd like to. It's just going to be an informational session to demonstrate the incredible work that they've been doing. And then Yeah, so May 1st, 5 p.m., right here in Conference Room 2 behind City Council chambers. Thus concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Riley. Ordinance, Councilor Denham.
Thank you, Mr. President. We haven't met since our last meeting. So our next meeting will be April 23rd at 6 p.m. in Conference Room 1. It will be hybrid, so people have the opportunity to participate remotely. At that meeting, we will likely spend most of our time discussing the municipal opt-in specialized stretch code. We'll have a variety of different people there to discuss it, including contractors, a few contractors, so I'm hoping it will be a robust conversation. And then in terms of the temporary moratorium on use of sewage sludge fertilizer, we are in process of just kind of individually gathering information and speaking to various constituents about the impact of that, but that will probably likely be more discussed at the meeting following that. So, as I said, the next meeting will largely focus on the municipal opt-in specialized stretch code. And that's everything that we have to offer the council today.
Thank you, Councilor Denham. Property, Councilor Sarrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. We covered our sole agenda item in the public hearing, and so no further report. This concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Sarrett. We have no Rules and Government Committee. Councilor Kuczynski is not here. We had a meeting last Wednesday. We discussed the potential petition that the city will send to Beacon Hill about ranked choice voting, multiple choice. And the committee didn't make any decision yet. It's a potential different language that the committee will recommend the council to pass and send it to the legislators, but the committee is still working on it. Our next meeting is going to be the 24th at 6:30, room number 1. And that's conclude with rules. No business. Councilor Sarrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. So before you in the agenda packet is a request from immediate attention to affirm a resolution to establish Easthampton as an official Xerxes Society B City. This is a part of a process that we initiated. I believe that was 2023. I don't think it was 2022. That started with the city committing to a pollinator action plan in conjunction with the Conway School and working with the planning department that led to this agenda item to become a Xerxes Society B City, which basically means that the city commits to certain policy items that will support native plants and therefore pollinators, and by doing both of those, supports the entire ecology of our city and our region all the way up the food chain. This is a step 5 or 6 of a process that involved first forming the Bees Committee last year. The committee has met to review the resolution, which again outlines specific policy steps, and then that had to be sent to the Xerxes Society for their review, and they have approved it. And so now it is back before the council for affirmation today. As mentioned, when this was initially recommended a year ago, this idea of making sure that we're creating sustainable spaces as well as creating policies around native plants in the city is supported obviously by organizations like the Xerxes Society, the Native Plant Trust, Audubon Society. We had conservation speak earlier. They all understood and supported this. This isn't, to my understanding, a direct item on the climate action plan, but it's definitely tangential to the work that we'll be doing with the upcoming climate action plan. I can read it now, or I could take any stop there.
Any councilor have any objection of having this resolution tonight? See none. Councilor Sarrett.
Okay, I will now read the resolution. Let me just that. I'm sorry. I switched devices. Apologize. This is it. Okay. A resolution of the City Council of Easthampton, Massachusetts, designating Easthampton, Massachusetts as a Bee City USA affiliate. Whereas the mission of Bee City USA is to galvanize communities to sustain pollinators responsible for the reproduction of almost 90% of the world's flowering plant species by providing them with healthy habitat rich in a variety of native plants and free to nearly free of pesticides. And whereas thanks to more than 3,600 species of native bees in the United States, along with introduced honeybees, we have very diverse dietary choices rich in fruits, nuts, and vegetables. And whereas bees and other pollinators have experienced population declines due to a combination of habitat loss, poor nutrition, pesticides, including insecticides, fungicides, and herbicides, parasites, diseases, and climate change. And whereas pollinator-friendly communities can benefit local and regional economies, I almost need reading glasses, sorry, through healthier ecosystems, increased vegetable and fruit crop yields, and increased demand for pollinator-friendly plant materials from local growers. And whereas ideal pollinator-friendly habitat A is comprised of mostly native wildflowers, grasses, vines, shrubs, and trees blooming in succession throughout the growing season to provide diverse and abundant nectar and pollen, since many wild pollinators prefer or depend on the native plants with which they co-adapted. B is free or nearly free of pesticides, as many pesticides can harm pollinators and or their habitat. C comprises undisturbed spaces, leaf and brush piles, unmown fields or field margins, fallen trees and other deadwood for nesting and overwintering. And D provides connectivity between habitat areas to support pollinator movement and resilience. And whereas integrated pest management, IPM, is a long-term approach to maintaining healthy landscapes and facilities that minimizes risks to people and the environment by identifying and removing the causes of pest problems rather than only attacking the symptoms, the pests. Employing pest natural enemies along with cultural, mechanical, and physical controls when prevention is not enough, and using pesticides only when there is no other method is feasible or effective. And whereas supporting pollinators fosters broad-based community engagement in environmental awareness and sustainability, and whereas Easthampton, Massachusetts should be certified as a Bee City USA community as the natural evolution of its already existing efforts and plans to address the impact of biodiversity loss, climate change, and other environmental threats within the city, and its commitment to support and sustain the health of local ecosystems. And now, therefore, in order to enhance understanding among local government staff and the public about the vital role that pollinators play and what each of us can do to sustain them, Easthampton, Massachusetts chooses to support and encourage healthy pollinator habitat creation and enhancement, resolving as follows. 1, the Easthampton Planning Department is hereby designated as the Bee City USA sponsor. 2, the planning director or their designee within the city is designated as the Bee City USA liaison. 3, facilitation of Easthampton, Massachusetts Bee City USA program is assigned to the Biodiversity, Environment, and Ecological Sustainability Committee. 4, the Biodiversity, Environment, and Ecological Sustainability Committee is authorized to and shall, A, celebration, host at least one educational event or pollinator habitat planning or restoration each year to showcase Easthampton's commitment to raising awareness of pollinator conservation and expanding pollinator health and habitat. B, publicity and information, install and maintain at least one authorized Bee City USA street sign in a prominent location, and create and maintain a webpage on the City of Easthampton website, which includes, at minimum, a copy of this resolution and links to the National Bee City USA website, contact information for your Bee City USA liaison and committee, reports of the pollinator-friendly activities the community has accomplished in the previous years, and your recommended native plant species list and integrated pest management plan explained below. C, habitat. Develop and implement a program to create or expand pollinator-friendly habitat on public and private land, which includes but is not limited to identifying and inventory Easthampton's real property that can be enhanced with pollinator-friendly plantings, creating a recommended local native plant list to identify wildflowers, grasses, vines, shrubs, and trees, and a list of local suppliers for those species, and tracking by square footage and acreage annual area of pollinator habitat created or enhanced. D, pollinator-friendly pest management, create and adopt an integrated pest management IPM plan designed to prevent pest problems, reduce pesticide use, and expand the use of non-chemical pest management methods. E, policy and plans, establish through the city a policy in the Pollinator Action Plan of Easthampton's comprehensive plan to acknowledge and commit to the Bee City USA designation and review the Pollinator Action Plan, other relevant documents to consider improvements to pest management policies and practices as they relate to pollinator conservation, identify appropriate locations for pollinator-friendly plantings, and consider other appropriate measures. F, renewal. After completing the first calendar year as a Bee City USA affiliate, each February, apply for renewal of Easthampton's Bee City USA designation following the format provided by Bee City USA, including a report of the previous year's Bee City USA activities, and paying the renewal fee based on Easthampton's population. That is in the form of a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to pass a resolution of the City of Easthampton, Massachusetts, designating Easthampton, Massachusetts as a Bee City USA affiliated. Any further discussion? Councilor Sarah.
I just really wanted quickly to thank everyone who's helped us get this far. That includes the City Council in forming this new committee. Certainly the Mayor's Office and Planning Office in supporting this directive. The Bees Committee, the enthusiastic residents of Easthampton, as well as those who participated in the Pollinator Action Plan, which has formed important framework for the work that we're going to do going forward. Unlike many of our resolutions, this actually lays out a roadmap and is in some ways an MOU to ourselves that we are committing to some pretty substantial policy development, as well as PR work and interaction education with the public. So there's a lot of work to be done from here. This is only one step of the process, but it's been really rewarding so far, and I'm really pleased that there's been great support thus far.
Thank you. Any other councilor? Seeing none. Barbara?
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham. Aye. Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have two reappointments. Councilor Riley?
Thank you, Mr. President. So in accordance with the Easthampton Home Rule Charter Section 2-8A, the following individuals are presented for reappointment by the City Council. Before I make the motion, I want to say, as an extra reminder, these two individuals are employees of the City Council. So I think it is really helpful if you would come to this meeting to hear the work that is being done by the people who we employ. So in the form of a motion, I would like to move the City Council appointments of Hadel Patel, City Auditor, and Kathy Smith, Assistant City Auditor, to the Appointment Committee with term expiration dates of May 5th, 2027.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to send those two reappointments to the Appointments Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham. Aye. Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes. I will take a motion to move to the Public Safety, the request to refer to the Public Safety Review and Language in the Traffic Rules and Order.
Second.
So move.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to send the request to the refer to the Public Safety Review language in the Traffic Rules and Order to the Public Safety Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell.
Aye.
Motion passes. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Barbara?
Aye.
Connie Denham. Omar Gomez.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Tamara Smith.
Aye.
JT Terrell. Aye. Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Motion passes. Have a great evening. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
You were.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sign in there.